Welcome everybody to this Power Hour session on analytics for commissions. In this session, we'll cover all the different options that we have today from the reporting analytics perspective for commissions, and then where we are headed. We'll give you some direction on what the thought process is behind our new stack that we are moving towards, and also share with you the roadmap that we are planning for the next year ahead. So with that said, the first session, of course, is going to be, the first part is, of course, the disclaimer that we always run through, because there are certain statements that will be made during this course of this presentation, which will be more forward-looking, and it's at the discretion of SAP to deliver or not deliver, or the timing of those features. So just keep that in mind. And essentially, the idea is to inform you as best as we can with all the information that we have today, and also with what we know about where we are headed in the future, so that you can align your business practices and your product strategy accordingly. So what we will cover in this session is going to be focusing on these four areas primarily. Just an introduction and overview for the options that we have today on reporting analytics, and we'll talk about some of the innovation work that we have been doing behind the scenes, and where we are with respect to the innovation that we have already completed, and where we are delivering them in the releases. Also, we'll be talking about the new user experience and share with you the solution overview and some benefits that we perceive from our side. That has been talked about also in the past, but now we are seeing fruition for that, given the new direction we have taken. And finally, we'll talk about the offerings, current and roadmap, so that you guys can get a very clear picture of where we are today and where we are headed. So with regards to the information access on commissions today, we primarily divide it into four areas, and each of them have their own area of importance, and the way people interact with them is pretty much based on the need and style. So over here in the first section, we have the dashboard and mobile, which is focused primarily towards the information at a glance. And so it's the first level information that users typically need, whether that's a sales rep or a manager, where they want to see some high level numbers aggregated on their system, which give them a peek into where things are at any given point of time. And this is available either via the dashboard or on the mobile. Now, beyond that, we also have the capabilities of doing reporting based on the statements and publications that we provide today. And on the analytics side, we have the ability to look across various kinds of KPIs that are based on the data models provided, and then it's governed by role-based access. So users see only what they are authorized to see. And the goal is to have a self-service discovery, and that way it's driven by the end user and not pushed out by admins, which is the basis for the exploration of the data. Now, these concepts have been carried forward even in the newer world, and we'll talk about them. But today, as we see, if you are an existing customer who has had the product for a while, you've been seeing these in the form of Crystal reports and Thunderbridge analytics. And as we move forward, there are various mechanisms that we'll be adopting to bring information to you. And again, this is the current one, which is accessed via the commissions portal, where you can see the embedded statements as part of the product. Now, let's talk about the innovation that we are doing with the next generation that we are bringing in. The idea is to give out pre-configured solutions and better empower comp admins to look at incentive plans and make better decisions from the deep analytics that we are providing. It's also an opportunity for them to maximize the performance of the plans by optimizing them and creating sales strategies around those. The implementation part is where most of the effort has been in the past, and I think what our goal always has been is to improve that process and to make that available in a quick amount of time, and that's where we succeed, where the implementation is in a very short cycle as opposed to larger cycles where you have independent platforms that you build ground up, whereas the SAP Analytics Cloud platform that we are leveraging for our side gives you the power to essentially have a quick turnaround as far as the implementation and execution is concerned on your organization's data level. What it provides also are capabilities that are really, really useful and attractive to the end users with regards to visualizations and drill downs. These provide more detailed insights into the data that we have, and also lets them have a self-service experience with an interactive data exploration model. The typical scenarios where we need expertise in either SQL, or we need highly skilled personnel to understand the data levels, makes it more challenging, whereas the solution that we are offering makes it a little bit more democratic in the sense that users with no extensive training can do some building of the reports and analyze based on their business needs and with some business decisions that they need to make based on these. So the other part which is very important is the security aspect, where if you go with a general BI solution, the security, the data governance, all of that onus is on you, whereas the solution that we roll out takes that into account and is plugged into our solution and our application in a way that you don't have to recreate those. They carry forward with whatever has been implemented in the core application of Commissions. So let's look at the new user experience, and we'll talk about it from two fronts. One is, what did we do as a carry forward from the existing solution? So the existing solution we had prior to 1908.2 was called Thunderbridge Analytics, and many, if not most of you, are already familiar with it. And the idea was to provide guided reporting and analytics solution with the improved data efficiency, data update efficiency, which was kind of clubbed in together with the application. And those are some of the features that made it apart from a generic offering that we had. Now, as we move forward in the new world, we will carry forward all of these goodies with us, along with several other innovations that we are doing in this front. Now, with regards to the new world, we will be looking at providing innovation in various ways. And as you can see, we have the ability to give you a better look and feel. That's one of the areas that we have been focusing on. And also the ability to make it available to all users in a way that's useful for a cloud application. So first of all, it's self-service for all business users. It's a cloud solution that has been integrated with all our data, metadata, and security. And this makes it unique in the sense that it's tied to our application very closely, and you don't need to do any additional work in order to recreate those parts. And it's a real-time exploration. So the data connectivity is live, and there is no need for an additional lag or latency for moving the data from one location to another, and then building your data models and reports based off of that. As soon as the pipeline in Commissions is run, we have all the data available, and you can start looking at this information directly right after that. So let's now talk about, the offering that we have in with regards to the solution that we are proposing today and later on. As we see, we have on the left-hand side what was offered previously. So we had the standard reporting, we had all the other areas that were in focus. Now, starting with this release or this quarter, I would say Q4, we have simplified things on our side. We have included some of the capabilities as part of the offering of SAP Commissions, and that's the embedded interactive reporting piece where you have out-of-the-box reports that are available, and we'll talk about them shortly. And then there is, a level above that, which is the performance optimizer add-on, which allows you to create and distribute content. And Crystal reports strictly for statements is what we are proposing as we move forward. Now, the use cases that we have been targeting around these largely revolve around these buckets, but we need to clarify some things here. So the first level is where a customer is on pure SAP Commissions and they need access to information within the commission system. We provide an interactive reporting library of reports, which allows them to view the data that they're authorized to see, and they can do some filtering and on the reports that are available to them. Compensation statements go along with them, and these are primarily based on Crystal that users will be using, and they are included as part of the commissions offering. So the first part, which is the embedded interactive reporting, and then the compensation statement, both are part of the offering with SAP Commissions as soon as someone procures that. The level up to that is the optimizer add-on, where we need the capabilities for doing self-service reporting, interactive reporting, authoring, distribution, etc. That's all part of that add-on scheme. So if you're part of it, you can start doing all of those and more. Last but not the least, one of the things that has been, always been questioned is the SAP Analytics Cloud platform itself. So SAP Analytics Cloud that we offer is based on some of the data sources that we are tied to. So in our case, it's commissions clearly, and that's what you can use for creating and building your reports. The second thing is in scenarios where we provide that information, the metadata, security, etc., is all taken care of by us. Whereas if you have a need where you want to go beyond commissions, you want to include data sources outside of commissions, and you want to build custom sources, you want to build custom reports on a combination of various data, all of that is possible in the full version of SAC or SAP Analytics Cloud. But that is not part of our offering. So our offering is only limited to the first three. The full-blown application of SAP Analytics Cloud is something that you would have to procure separately. And mind you, once you go down that path, you have to also take care of all the data layer. You have to build the models, you have to build the security integration, and take the entire responsibility from ground zero. So that's the distinction we have. So again, as part of our offering, we provide the first level, which is included with commissions. The second level, where you can author and start distributing, is also something that we can give it out based on the performance optimizer add-on. And then finally, we have the full-blown SAC platform, which allows you to go across all different data sources beyond commissions, if that is where your need is and you're looking for an enterprise reporting solution. So what we are doing as we move forward in this quarter is we are packaging things in a different way than you have been used to in the past. So earlier we had the SAP Commissions, and then we had the intelligent add-on were the two different packaging areas that we were focused on. As we move forward in the new world, we will be having SAP Commissions, where, as I mentioned, it'll offering that we are doing for analytics. And then, of course, in the add-on, you have additional capabilities for not only the analytics piece, but also we include AI as part of it. For territory and quota, it's now going to be packaged separately, and then core territory and quota with AI, etc., will be sold separately. So there is a difference in how things were packaged in the past and how they are going to be done in the future. So for additional information on this, contact your AE and they can guide you through this process, but just want to give you a heads up on that. So what are we doing on the reporting analytics on HANA? For HANA-based customers, we have two options. Again, the packaging is something that we talked about already. Now, getting down a little bit below that and trying to understand what kind of capabilities are available. So on the left-hand side, we have the SAP Commissions product. So if you buy Commissions without the add-on, then you get the embedded interactive reporting, which is a collection of stories, as we call them, and we'll see them shortly. And it provides you information that's available in your system through those stories, and that's all you get as part of that offering. It does use the role-based access to control the information or the data access, whereas if you go to the add-on, it also includes the data access restrictions, but in addition to that, it does allow you to create newer stories and have a distribution mechanism. And the idea is to analyze data in a more proficient way for the comp admins, and also make managers and reps enabled to look at the information in a different way. So it all depends on where you want to head with this. And if the goal is to create reports and also combine the capabilities of AI, which we highly believe is helpful for most of our customers, then in that scenario, you have to go with the performance optimizer add-on. The one comment that we'll make with regards to the AI piece, the augmented intelligence piece that we have, it essentially allows you to look at information and you can optimize your sales teams to promote better behaviors with insights that we provide from our AI engine. And this the goal is to allow comp admins to have more effective plans as they roll out for the next year and the year beyond. And so the augmented intelligence actually adds on, and whatever we create through the AI models is consumable through our analytics engine. So that's another plus of going to the performance optimizer add-on. Now, as far as documentation is concerned, it's available online. It's available as part of the help portal now. We do not need to get any special access or PDF documents, as has been the case in the past. You can either go and search for it, or you can get a link. It's available for everybody. And then we have segregated the information based on the user role and type. So the 4 classes of users that we envision as we move forward include the viewers, who are going to be purely consumers of reports, and they will be uptaking the reports and looking at what has been provided to them. Authors are designated individuals within the organization who can actually create reports and share the stories with others. And then finally, administrators are the ones who manage the end users, their login capabilities, their roles, etc. So they will be the ones who will be designing or designating individuals as authors. They can create teams for distribution. So they could create, a group or a team saying managers from the Eastern region, or Eastern region sales reps. And in that scenario, users will be able to access any information that has been shared with that particular team. And these team creations are again administrative tasks that users will be allowed to do. Administrators will be creating those teams, and then users will be allowed to create stories if they have the author role and share those stories with those teams. And then finally, on the other side, we have the embedded interactive reporting user help, which is primarily geared towards the one class of users who come in with the pure commissions scenario. And we thought that it would be a good idea to give them exactly what they get, which is largely, what the viewer gets with the sample stories that we provide out of the box. So as far as the sample stories are concerned, these are in our system, and I'll quickly go over and show you live what we have. That way, it gives you a better feel of where we are today with it. So let me just quickly bring in my SAP Analytics Cloud window here. And then as you see, these are the live sample stories that we have in our system. Every commissions tenant that we have will primarily start getting these. And so once you start clicking on these, so let's say we click on team measurement by rule, this is what you get. And here you can start doing some interactions as well within the system. So, at a simple level, you could choose the different managers who are available here in this case. So for example, if I choose, one of these managers, you'll see my visualizations update accordingly. I could choose a different currency if I have, a need for that in scenarios where I'm representing or presenting the data for multiple areas. I could even start looking at individual visualizations in a more dedicated way. So I could go in and start looking at it. So let's say if I increase the periods from the 2 periods that I have, and I include all the different periods, I can start looking at it from that perspective. I can then start, cherry picking some of the individuals that I may be interested in. It could be in a random fashion, or I could select a group of individuals based on my needs. So let's say in this case, I'll just cherry pick a few users and then restrict my view to those that I have selected. So now my view will be only part of that, or I could again revert back and go back to what I have here, just live with it. And also I could look at the top performers. So let's say I choose the top 15. I could do that very easily. And then as I look through it, I'm very easily able to switch over and go into the bottom. From the top, I could move to the bottom, and let's say, let me see the bottom 15. And now it will quickly revert back. And then I could head back to my scenario for looking at the information that we have from different perspectives. The other thing that I also wanted to say is, this is the list of reports that we get out of the box for every new tenant that is provisioned. I could designate these as part of my favorites. So in this case, I have the commissions folder completely dedicated as a favorite. So this is the folder that I was looking at earlier. And so as soon as I mark them, they come in as favorites. I could also build interactive reports on my own. So this is a report that, for example, is created using the data sources that we provide. So here we have interactivity with the different application elements that we have. So in this case, I have all these periods, and let's say I choose the period of July and September. I would be seeing those in the information that is now available. I could restrict my data to one particular manager, or I could have all of it combined. So let's say I do the combination and I have all of them here. Now I could also do a collective choice of picking and choosing the different elements. And as you can see, my widgets are connected to each other. So once I choose a certain combination, I would be seeing the data being reflected on all of the other widgets accordingly. So again, this is a choice that I have. So as I was just showing you one of the interactions that I had in this story, you could go in and you could have similar stories that you create with different visualizations and styles. And of course, you can assign the similar kind of controls there, or you can build them in a way that makes it easier for you to consume them. And you can start interacting with them in a much richer way than you have been doing in the past. So the other aspect is, how do you actually go ahead and build these reports from the different data models that we provide. So that's the other user experience I'll quickly share with you. So here in this case, as I was showing, this is an example of a report that you had based on a data model, right? And let's say if I start creating a story, I could start creating from scratch, or I could add an additional page here. So in this case, let's say I add a page, and I'll just add a canvas page here. I'll choose a chart to add based on the incentive data source that I've already added. Now, this is giving me the ability to interact with a story that I already have. Now, let's get the user's interaction from a perspective of who wants to start from scratch and build a story from the very beginning. So if I am a user and I want to create a story, this is the create story experience for an end user. So they create, or they select the create story option, and then they are presented with the different data sources that they can choose, or the data models as we call them. And then once they select that data model, that's tied to the story, and they can start adding different visualizations based on that data model that we have just chosen. So in this case, I've chosen a data model for incentives, and let's say I choose incentive value, and I can start adding, let's say, a dimension to this, which could be my full name. And now I see that there is something that I could do with regards to the formatting of the numbers in this case. So as you can see, I have decimal places which are defaulted, and let's say I just select 2 decimal places, so that's all I'll get. Now I have completed this part. Now let's go and add another chart to this quickly, and this could be again using the same measure of incentive value, and I could be using something which shows me in a different way. Probably I choose, or rather instead of the incentive value, let me choose something which is different, which is, let's say, the the quota value. And if I go with the quota value and I choose my full name and I choose the top 5 in this scenario, let's say I'll choose quickly top 5, and I will make this a vertical to a horizontal, vertical representation of the information, and also I will cover up my decimal points and have 0 decimals here in this scenario. So that's giving me a quick way of delivering information that I have. Another way of creating these widgets is the ability to just copy them or duplicate them based on what my needs are. So in this case, let's say I do a quota value, or I add again a measure of incentive value, and I choose the donut style, and I do the top or bottom 5. Now I have a different visualization. I could add all of these very easily. I could change the coloration on these. So if I wanted to have a different feel for this, maybe I can go with something a little bit more, a different color that I choose. Could be this. So now the representation is different. Here, this could be also modified very easily. I get in a different color. And so on and so forth. With these different representations, it's very easy to modify and change things in a way that's going to be a little bit more, under my control. I could easily add a table below this, which would allow me to show some data in a different way, in a grid format, and that would allow me to show some details with regards to what I've been seeing in the visualization above. So if I add some rows, and I can again start with full name, I can choose the hire date if I have that. In this case, it's not yet populated, but let's say I just go with full name, and then of course I can start, adding the business unit name. In this case, I have probably got only one. If I have more than one business unit, or if I have multiple plants, I could have periods that is available. So if I could choose, let's say, the period name or the period start date, this is what it could be. And based on that, you can see my report is evolving, and I can quickly save that. And I can save that in my system, saying, your report, done that. I could change the individual tabs, and I could very easily modify the name. I can change the name here and say, incentives. I could add more or leave it as is, and I could go into a view mode. And also, the other thing that we could do is we could share the information with others. So in this scenario, let's say I choose to share with others. I can choose who I share with, and I could choose to share with, let's say with Austin and with Julia and Naresh. And I say, okay, this is the sharing that we'll do, and I can give them different levels of access, either the view access or the full control, and then we're done with it. Once I save this, my save ensures that the information sends out notification to these users, and now my first level dashboard is ready in just a few clicks, in a very short amount of time, based on what we had. So essentially, the goal is to increase the productivity of the authors, and also the comp admins don't need to understand the gory details of the technical implementation that we have done behind the scenes. This is primarily enhancing the user experience and making it available to all users via the web. So there's no plugin or nothing is required to be installed on local machines. And with quick maneuvers, you can create some effective reports that can be then distributed to the larger audience within the organization. So that said, let me come back to my presentation again and continue where we left off. So as I was talking about the presentation with regards to the sample stories that we have provided out of the box, so I showed you 2 or 3 variations. One is the sample stories that's included as part of the offering that does allow you to do limited interaction with regards to changing some of the filters that we provide in those stories. So for example, you could change a period and see the data reflected accordingly, or you could go with some private stories that an author has created for you, and you could see the interactions that I was doing within that story. And then the third level, I showed you how to actually create reports or stories based on the data models that we procure or provide for all the different tenants that we will be provisioning. So that, by and large, is where we are headed towards in the new world. So the product is already available today in 1908.2 for customers who are on HANA and who will be provisioned on HANA for the new tenants. They can easily uptake these. So that's our goal. And then, quickly to round off on my roadmap before I, start taking some questions and we can respond to those. So The idea is that in 1908.2, which is the current month, we have the commissions on the SSE UI platform that we have provided. We have the Plan Optimizer also, which has been made available. Plan Optimizer is part of the AI offering that comes in. And so we ensure that the story that we provide is picking up the data from the AI solution that we have. And the story is already prepackaged. You get the benefit of that if you have the Performance Optimizer add-on. As we move forward in the newer releases, we have additional things that we want to start working on. One of the first things is, enabling other products to come on board and start working with the same model that we have. And that will allow customers to uptake these and use them in their own ways, so that we are able to leverage what capabilities we have been building for commissions. So territory and quota will be following us shortly, and they'll start with a pilot, and then eventually they'll make it generally available to all customers. And then as we start building into the new world, there will be needs for some customization, and we'll be talking about those in the coming releases, where we'll enable customers to build analytics based on their custom needs, beyond the data models that we provide. And also, coming in the new year, we'll have the capability for integrating our new solution with the Oracle-based implementation. So that's also something that we've been planning for, and that's what will happen, first half of next year. And then beyond that, we have other areas that we want to work on with regards to allowing reports to be created based on the data that we have, and also allow the reports and stories that we build in one environment to be moved across with the lifecycle management solution that we do. And we'll be bringing in other products on board as we move forward: workflow, insurance, etc. So the different areas of our product that we will be working on are outlined here in the next year. The comp statement that we have been also working on will probably be available towards the second half of next year, because that requires some building on our side, and that will all come through this whole solution that we are working towards, and we have already made available in the 1908.2 release. So that said, I'm done with the presentation part of my session today, and I'll move on to some questions and then some interactions with folks online. And so there was a question from Richard asking if commissions would be made available to customers on Oracle. SSC on commissions will be available to customers on Oracle. So that's what I probably outlined in my roadmap. So it's slated for sometime next year, likely first half of the next year. More to it when we start getting into it. Another question that was asked is, do we need to run update analytics for SCA? The answer is yes. We need to run that stage as part of the pipeline process to ensure that the data security is maintained and all the data is available. From Sergio, will the Webby reports be available in the next releases? So as long as you are on the Oracle-based deployments, Webby reports are available. On HANA, Webby has been deprecated. It's not offered on HANA. The custom table analytics from Brad, yes, this means EXT tables that we have been talking about in tables that are created for customers. That's what we'll be leveraging for custom tables. Another question from Scott: how does data get updated in SAP Analytics from SAP Commissions? And I think you've answered the question, is it an update analytics process? And that is the right answer. Current Thunderbridge Analytics reports, this was from Mustafa. Can that be migrated over, or does that have to be rebuilt? So this is something that you have to rebuild in the new implementation, because this is a new stack of technology. So there's no migration from Thunderbridge Analytics. So Sean has asked about, we were unable to customize BO Universe. Is it possible to say which version of the product this will be available? So now on the BO, if you are on the Oracle stack, and you continue to be there, BO Universe can be customized with the help of managed services engagement, and there are certain rules and principles that you have to follow, but you can do that. But if the question is regarding the SAC or the analytics offering with commissions, then in that scenario we will be able to allow that customization when we have the custom analytics option available, and that will likely be sometime next year. The beta is slated for earlier, but we don't know exactly what nature that will be, but most likely expect that option to be available next year. Again, I think a similar question there were similar questions with regard to update analytics. All of those have been answered. What types of security are available in SAP Analytics? So the types of security are at multiple levels that we have. We have the role-based access, number one, which is users with certain roles see certain capabilities. So if you're an author, you will be able to see the ability to create reports. If you're an admin, you will be able to create teams and share and do certain folder creation, etc. But if you're a viewer, typically you will only be consuming those reports or stories, and you will see what has been shared with you. The other part of it is also the fact that there are levels of restrictions are at the data level. So the data restriction is there based on the data security access that you have. It could be based on the org hierarchy. So you see the data for yourself if you are at, let's say, a rep. If you're a manager, you see the data for yourself and your team. And similarly, you can have other ways of restricting the data using position groups or some of the other capabilities. And in some cases where you want to give access to a higher authority or a senior management person without those restrictions, you can do an override as well. So the security is at the role level for the data access, and then there is the for the role level for the capabilities within the product. The data access security is in addition to that, and then you have the artifact security, which ensures that each of the stories that are shared are only sent out to individuals who have access to it. And then there's a fourth level, which is the data model security, where only certain individuals can be designated to see some of those models. So for example, users with the admin role will see some more models than a typical author. An author will be restricted to pure commissions models, whereas an administrator will be able to see a model based on transactions. How are users onboarded in SAP Analytics? So user onboarding in SAP Analytics is based on 2 or 3 scenarios. As soon as you have a commissions customer, you are typically allocated an SAP Analytics instance, and behind the scenes we are using what is called the IDP, SAP IDP, and all those users will be uploaded to SAP IDP and to the appropriate groups in IDP, which ensures the access to the SAP Analytics side that we have. Again, in scenarios where users would be added manually, they would also have some special instructions from our IDP team with regards to how do you add individual users and assign them the appropriate groups. Are there coding options like using JavaScript? No, there are no coding options. It's purely a WYSIWYG drag and drop solution that we have. There's no coding required for this. Will it be possible to dispute SAC reports to end user dashboards, or will payees need to log into SAC to access? So at this time, payees will need to log into SAC to access the information, but we have future plans, undecided when we might be able to distribute SAC. but at this point of time, they would have to log in. What if I don't want to show an embedded report to my users? So you don't give them access. That's pretty much what you do. If you do not give them the access to a certain story, they will not be able to see that in their list of options. Which release of SCA is available from drop down of portal homepage, single sign-on. So we don't have a fixed release for that, but most likely it'll be early first half of next year. But there are other ways like using the dashboard widgets to accomplish some of that, as long as you have IDP in place. So the IDP will be the key for the single sign-on. So commissions also has to be an IDP. It'll not just be the portals. The next question is, does SCA inherit built-in security restrictions? And the answer is yes, it does inherit those. Moving on, 1911 release embedded report stories will be available in the dropdown. What about until for now? So I didn't get that question, but I think if a customer is onboarded on a new tenant with the Sales Cloud Analytics, they will be getting these stories that are there. Existing customers who are on the Oracle-based solutions will continue to get what they have in their offerings. There's no change in the Oracle offerings. Is there a plan to extend custom hierarchy? I think custom models would be an option for users who need some of the capabilities of customizing their data models, but I don't know specifically what is being targeted in this scenario. But to answer Mustafa's question, you can explore, extending the custom models in the EXT schema. Does the performance optimizer require a separate URL? How does an environment get access to performance optimizer, and what is it? There is no specific or a separate URL for the performance optimizer. What you get with commissions is this, what you will get with the performance optimizer. It's the same URL. What changes is the capability that we enable behind the scenes. So from the end user's perspective, it will always be a single URL. And then once they go into that URL, the abilities or the capabilities based on the role that they have will change. So for example, in pure SAP Commissions, it'll be a view-only offering to everybody, and they cannot change anything beyond the sample stories that we have. They can interact with the sample stories, that's about it. With the performance optimizer, the additional roles of admin and author will come in. So now they can go and start building those reports, creating those reports, sharing those reports, but the URL will remain the same. Will data modeling from commissions be available in commissions on SCA? So that's where the custom models are being talked about, and custom model is coming down the line for having the capability to create custom models based on the needs of a specific customer. The next question from Chelappa is, when data models from territory and quota will be available? As I mentioned in my roadmap, the pilot is supposed to begin sometime later this year. And then based on that, the general availability is expected first half of next year. And can we create custom report parameters and pick lists? So based on what I showed in my example, you can create filters within the stories, and you can customize your pick lists to say a certain which elements or members that you choose as part of it. So for example, if I have managers as a list or as a pick list, I can choose if I want to pick the 5 managers or 10 managers as part of that pick list, so that the end user who is executing that story can have that choice. So question is, if a HANA customer wants to see an embedded report now, is a support case needed to enable the stories? It'll, and in 1911, will it be available in the dropdown? So it'll not be available in the dropdown. It'll be a separate URL, a separate login, but yes, a customer support case needs to be opened in order to enable that. So keep in mind that it's a separate instance that needs to be brought up and aligned with the HANA database that they have. All the backend processes need to be in place for them to be able to see it. So it will be a procedure that has to be executed by the operations team. With regards to new customers, whenever a new HANA, a new commissions tenant is provisioned on HANA, there will be an equivalent analytics environment spun up for that particular customer, for that particular tenant. And then our SAP Commissions modeling results available in the data model. Yes, so it's all the commissions data models that will be available and not TNQ at the moment. Eventually we'll have TNQ, but not currently. So in 1911, will HANA customers automatically get URL for the embedded reports? Only if a new tenant is provisioned, not for existing HANA customers. Existing HANA customers have to go through a process. Existing HANA customers will not get anything automatically. The new customers who come on board and start day one, they will be going through this process. For existing customers, we keep in mind, they may have some processes in place. They may already be using other solutions. So we don't know what that state would be. It would be a combination of support and operations working together with the customer to enable that. And based on the timeline, how do they switch? How do they recreate those reports, etc. So one question from Sean: how to promote configuration from dev to prod? As far as configuration is concerned, there is nothing that is needed for promotion. Operations will take care of associating the right commissions environments that will be associated with the appropriate analytics tenant.